That's good. Yes, it's on.
Got it?
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm going to go back to this screen share. Thank you. Anyway, so here we're going to start. Here's our introductions and the board report. And our introductions, those of us who are on the board are me from West Contra Costa, Leslie Stewart, who you will hear later as she gives the presentation on the Treasurer's Report and the budget. Roma Dawson, who I'm not sure is here yet, but she's our incredible housing person. Kathleen Shaw, who is definitely here from Oakland, who does regional government. Alex Starr, who's our superstar on transportation and from Fremont, Newark, and Union City. Our super duper star in communications is Vita Flores, and she's a Napa County representative. And Carol Levinson of Piedmont. And so we have been your board since 2018. The highlights, that's our introduction. The highlights that I just wanted to just point out things that have happened since the last time we met in a convention, which was not like this at all. It was in San Pablo, for those of you who were there and remember. Since then, we've done our league days. Here's a picture from our last league day in Fremont, which was the 2021, looking back and moving forward. And before that, we did, in 2019, we did an important league day at the Google Center in San Francisco on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've also got, one of the most important things we do as a league is the Bay Area Monitor. That's been a major effort, and I just put this over here again to remind us of how important it is. We're going to discuss it a little bit one more time, and I just hope we all are thinking of ways to take it forward, But this is a letter from Mrs. Elizabeth Brown, who is a very dedicated supporter of the Bay Area Monitor. The Monitor also now does Monitor Notes. I should have been in here. Monitor Notes, anyways, which is a weekly. Monitor comes out 6 times a year. Monitor Notes comes out weekly and deals with all kinds of relevant issues to the Bay Area. We have a very active Facebook page. We have a communication with a regular e-blast to all of you. We've done letters. One of the things the Bay Area League serves to do is represent regional issues and to take positions on regional issues, which we've done. And the last one was the letter to the MTC regarding CASA at that time. Here's a new person is coming. And we've had communications with our local leagues through the IN meetings and reports from the IS. So the next thing on the agenda is these are the minutes from back in April 28th, 2018. And I'm just presenting them to you. So when you get a copy of this, you can read it, but it just goes over what happened back in April 2018 in San Pablo, which seems so very long ago now, as we adopted the our steps for the future. This is the credentials report. The credentials report is right here. It comes from our bylaws, Article 10. The quorum shall consist of 1/3 of the voting members, provided that not less than a majority of local leagues is represented. So we have definitely met the standards for the quorum as we went through the attendance before. Appointment of committees. So the committees, there are 2 committees here that have to be appointed at this convention that I appoint. The first one is to have someone review the convention minutes, and that's because the minutes will be produced by our secretary, and it's just a question of somebody who will, within the next few weeks, once they're produced, sign off on having reviewed them, because they will not be shown again until 2 years from now. So I have one, Cheryl Collier is going to be part of the convention, reviewing the convention minutes. I need a volunteer to do it with Cheryl, so we'll have 2 people. Is there anybody who'd like to volunteer before I recruit you? Whoops.
So Madeline, did you point out how people can raise their hand?
Oh, no, that's a good point. Thank you. Thank you. So the way you can raise your hands, and what I have to do is I have to look at you all and resize my group.
Or somebody could submit their name via the chat. Which
Yeah, why don't you do that? Please do that. That's the easiest thing. Is there anybody in there who's, I'm actually not able to look at the chat right this minute.
So I'm following it and I don't see a new entry. Oh.
Oh, yes, I can. We now have 47 participants.
So
But
Jody,
I'm not raising my hand. I'm not raising my hand, but could you remind me how I can raise my hand on the phone? I think it's 09 or 07, but I can't remember.
I think it's 06.
Yes.
06. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madeline, Joni Nunez of the League of Women Voters of Oakland has volunteered to be one of the people reviewing the minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we'll have.
And if you need 3, Vita says that she'll be the 3rd.
Excellent. Thank you all very, very, very much for that. Then there is also a committee to review elections, but in this case, the elections are going to be held by this poll. So there really isn't, the necessity for that is made moot by the process, the Zoom polling process. So I'm not going to do that. And now we go to how the polls, once I've launched a poll, which is going to happen once we have our first vote, what you're just going to do is vote yes or no, or whatever your choice is. And I'll give you a little bit of time, and then the polling results, I'll just bring the polling results up so we will all see what they are. Okay, now we're going to get to doing that. The first thing we do is, what? No. The first thing we're going to do is the adoption of the convention rules vote, so we can test this process of polling. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. All right, so this is, you've all received the convention rules. Let's see if this is going to work. We're going to start with the first poll. And the poll is just simply going to say, do you approve the adoption of the convention rules? Yes or no?
You may have to stop sharing your screen.
All right, I can do that. I'm not sure. I have it on my screen.
But I don't think the rest of us see the poll.
Oh, just because I haven't launched it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just reading it to you before I launched it. That's all, because I get to see it. All right, so now here we go. Are we ready? Here it is. It's going to be launched.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And only the voting delegates can vote, correct?
Right. The voting delegates are going to vote.
Thank you.
And that includes the board members.
Yes, that includes the board members.
And
The only one who
this
doesn't
is
get to do
Andrew.
it is me, because I'm running the poll.
And I did *6, and I mean *6, 06. Did that? This is Ann Draper. Did that record as a hand up? Because I can't see it.
No, you can't see it.
Yeah, there's no hand up yet. Try the
Okay, is it
09 option.
All right.
So Deborah has her hand up and Sean's pad has her hand up.
Okay.
Let me see if there are any others.
I'm gonna try 07, see if that works.
Sure. Try.
Or 09 might also.
I tried 6, 9, and 7.
All right, so far we've had 32 out of 46 voters.
So did you get Deborah Scheffler? So Bernie Brooks is raising
All right, let me see where's
a hand, and I'm not sure, I don't remember the name of the person who's using
Sean.
Sean's iPad.
Hello, Sean?
Yes,
Did you raise your hand?
I had the poll come across and I pressed yes and submit. So I'm not sure because I'm
You
on
didn't
and
raise
off.
your hand in some other way.
No, no, I did not.
Okay. Deborah?
This is Ann Draper, and I've tried 3 times to raise my hand, but so far didn't make it.
I think you can.
This is Deborah. I answered the poll, plus I raised my hand.
Okay, so Deborah, you're right. Your hand is raised. I can see your hand and you got counted. So we're missing, anyway, now we have one person. Oh, Roma is coming. Roma is coming. Here comes Roma.
I might have tuned out, but I was
All right, but
hand
here's
raising.
what we've got. We have 32 out of the 34 who are eligible to vote. So not everybody in this group was eligible to vote. That's why.
Was I supposed to vote and raise my
I'm
hand?
sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, whoops.
Okay,
Yeah, he's asking whether he should vote and raise his hand, and if he was able to see.
no,
the
you don't
poll
have
and
to raise,
vote,
you
no, you
don't.
do
You
not
just
need
have
to
to
also
vote.
raise your hand. Yeah.
You just have to vote. Okay,
And Madeline, could you check and see whether Meg Bowerman is one of the delegates from Oakland or whether she's just here as an observer?
mm-hmm. I have her as a delegate.
Okay, so Meg, you can vote.
Good, good. I did vote. I just wanted
Okay.
to triple check. Thank you.
Thank you.
good.
Thank you very much.
And
Okay.
Martha also wanted to know whether she should raise the hand as well as using the poll. No, if you're able to see the poll and click on your vote and submit it, you do not also need to raise your hand. Raise your hand if you have a question that you want to ask or
Yeah,
Thank you.
and we're trying to figure out how you raise your hand and actually, we're trying to figure out how to do it on the phone. I'm still not sure if we've got that handled.
yeah, and unfortunately I don't remember. I'm sorry, Madeline.
Somebody
so
needs to,
Bernie has his hand up. I don't know whether
okay, Bernie?
Yeah, it's actually she, Bernadette
I'm
Brooks.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yes,
My hand's just up because I'm not seeing the poll, so I was just trying to vote yes. I did a reactions button at the bottom,
but you didn't see the poll.
but I didn't see the poll. So I have an older machine. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but.
Well, all right, well, thank you. I don't know how to help you see the poll in future. So,
But it's a yes vote.
as long as you raise your hand, I appreciate that. Then we will count that as a yes vote.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next. Are we okay now? I'm going to move on to our next step here. So the adoption of the convention minutes is concluded, and they are adopted. The next thing, for me, is the adoption of the order of business. Same thing. I'm just going to launch another poll. All right, so all of you eligible to vote, please vote. And all it says is, do you approve the adoption of the convention rules?
the order of
This
business.
is Andrew. This
Oh,
is
we did
Ann
that one.
Draper on the phone.
I'm sorry, that was that one. I didn't do this. I forgot. So that was there. I'm sharing the results of the last poll. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop that. And now I'm going to go to the next poll, which is the order of business. And now I'm launching this one. Do you approve the order of business? Yes or no?
And this is Ann Draper on the phone, and I vote yes.
Thank you.
If anybody else is not seeing the poll, please raise your hand so that we know that you're voting yes. If you're
Bernie Brooks is
voting no,
voting yes.
don't raise your hand.
Bernie, are you voting yes, or do you need?
Yes, I did a thumbs up in a reaction. I'm not sure. I'm still not seeing.
No, that's
anything about
good.
the polling.
That's
I thought that might be it.
yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay,
So it's
Bernie.
strange to me that you can do that, but you can't see the poll, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have 32 voters here. And it's unanimously supported. I'm going to end the polling. I'm going to share the results. And the 32 of you voted yes. So now,
Madeline, this is Sherry.
yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to point out that in chat, Preston Jordan has said that if you raise your hand by phone, you do *9.
Okay, *9 for phone. Try that for the next one. Before I do that, though, I do think I skipped something. I know I skipped it. And all I want to do is, this is out of order because somehow I skipped it. And that is to appoint the parliamentarian. We have graciously had Genevieve Callaway of West Contra Costa agreed to be the parliamentarian for this meeting. So I just wanted to have everybody know that, and I apologize for doing that out of order, but I skipped it.
Madeline, can you please repeat her name?
Genevieve, Genoveva, Callaway, Calloway, of West Contra Costa County.
And I agreed, but everybody will have to help me.
All right, there she is, and she's here. Oh, okay, Genevieve, you are officially in our minutes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so
Madeline, this is
Yes.
Bonnie. Could I just quickly read another instruction for voting using a telephone?
absolutely.
So, or to raise your hand on the phone, tap the screen. If you're using a smartphone, tap the screen, and then on the toolbar should appear, and you can select participants and raise your hand button is when you see this participant list, you can then raise your hand.
Okay. So this is we have so many different types of technology in front of us that there are people on landlines, there are people on smartphones. Anyhow, so that's that we've, so I need to share the results. We've had 100% approval of the order of business. I'll stop that. All right, so the next thing is the conversation around the monitor update.
Madeline, did you skip the treasurer's report in the budget? Are you
Did I
putting the
put it out
monitor
of
again?
order? I have it in here, but did it go out of order?
No, it was on the previous screen.
Oh, I just didn't say it, that's all.
It was
I've got
along with
I
the
have
adoption of
forward.
the order.
I'm sorry. All right, well, you are so
Slide
right.
13.
It's right here.
Right,
Right, it was hidden under my poll,
right.
Leslie. That's why I missed
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So Leslie is on.
Okay, so the treasurer's report was sent out separately along with the convention kit. And Madeline does not have that up, but hopefully the rest of you have it in front of you or can access it easily. There are just a couple of points that I would like to make about what is in the treasurer's report. And first of all, I'd like to give a little mini report on what was accomplished by my job this past year, past 2 years. We completed the merger of the Ed Fund and the Bay Area League. It may seem like old history because we were just doing that 2 years ago, but it's done. We transferred all of our accounts away from Wells Fargo to Citibank because we got those instructions at the 2018 convention. So that has been accomplished. And we worked with Oakland League to transfer the office to a less expensive space. So all of those were in line with discussions we had 2 years ago. You will see that after that according to the treasurer's report, that we did not make money this last 2 years. In fact, we lost some money, and it will be a little more after we finish paying the June expenses for the June-July monitor. Most of the loss has been coming out of the monitor reserves, although some of it did come out of Bay Area League reserves because part of it was due to the expense of our old office, and we've now mitigated that. The dues increase that was implemented starting in July 2018, plus our change in office space, has enabled us to avoid digging into reserves this year. Bay Area League is going to move the proceeds of League Day 2019 and 2020 to the monitor next year, but that's internal. It's not going to change our bottom line at all. The note in terms of the monitor funding, which will trend into our budget discussion, is that monitor funding has continued to decrease. MTC reduced the amount in an already renewed contract during this past year. So that's also reflected in our treasurer's report. We're not getting as much as we expected. The bright spot is that the Air District increased our contract this past year by the same amount. So it balanced out for this year. Going forward, it's going to be a negative in terms of what the outcome is of that, because MTC will continue to want us to reduce. But that is the basic situation with our treasurer's report. And when we move into the budget, you will see how we intend to address the finances going forward.
Okay. Let me get rid of this. Thank you, Leslie. Do we have questions? Let's see. By the time I pull it up, it's going to be too late. Alex. Alexandra Starr, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I had to unmute. I just wanted to thank Leslie for the fabulous job she's done. It's been very complicated. I don't think we can appreciate how hard it was. And every month she'd come back and say, well, we're almost there. And finally we got there. I felt like celebrating with something a bit more than a Coca-Cola when she said that. But I think she should be commended for the great job she's done.
Here. You are totally right, Alex. There is, I've worked in a lot of organizations and public agencies, and I've never seen a treasurer have to go through as many details as Leslie has done. And she's done it incredibly well and caught mistakes and caught other people's mistakes and my mistakes. It's an extraordinary thing. And the journey through the IRS was also a very complicated journey. So the first step, I really do appreciate you, Leslie. If you need a letter of recommendation because you want to become treasurer somewhere, we're happy to happy to prepare it for you.
We clap hands for that. Thank
Yeah,
you
right.
for your dual role.
Yes.
No question about it. Okay, so we've got 2 votes in this section. One is to accept the treasurer's report, and the second one is to accept the budget. So I'm going to run the next one.
Yes, you're not much help right now.
Here it is. Oh, okay. So here's the thing about this. They're in the, let's have the budget presented first, because the questions are separate, but they're going to be asked in the same poll, because I just realized that's how I set it up. So just remember that you've accepted the treasurer's report and be ready to vote on that once the poll gets launched after you see the budget. Because I don't think you can't vote on this till you adopt the budget, unless we vote on it twice. Which doesn't make sense. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and do the budget?
Okay, Leanne, I think you're starting that.
Okay, yes. I think I'm unmuted, yes. I'm Leanne Campadonico, and I served on the budget committee with Ann Draper and Sherry Smith. We basically served in name only because Leslie has carried all the water for this process, as Madeline has just described. And I hope everyone has had a chance to look at the proposed budget. Leslie did highlight some items that she really wanted us to pay attention to, having to do with the downward trends that she just spoke about in terms of sponsorships and agency support, and the fact that we are approaching a time of serious downsizing of the monitor, which, as Alec explained in his update, I hope everyone read that too, has been the crown jewel of the Bay Area League for 45 years. And we now turn to questions about how we face the future. So I really would like to turn it back over to Leslie, who can answer any other questions and perhaps has more comments about the proposed budget.
Thank you, Leanne. Yes, there are a couple of comments I need to do to put the budget into context, because of course we were doing this budget before the most recent developments, which have changed life for all of us. It was prepared pre-pandemic. We don't know what the impact of the pandemic is going to be on the funding from some of our agencies, and especially the transit agencies. However, we did, as Leanne mentioned, we did see a downward trend in monitor, and we had been told that MTC was iffy for, in terms of maybe even renewing. This is the second year of a 3-year contract. They've already decreased us. We don't think that that's a good sign. So what we did was to prepare a very conservative budget. This is based on a minimal print run or no print run for the monitor. If money is received, the board's going to determine how far that money can stretch to continue providing printed issues. And we are going to look at this within a few months. Our funding requests are currently out. They've actually gotten better results than we thought, but we will have to look at it and see whether or not we have the money, and if so, how far it goes. The board's already discussed models for maintaining the monitor project, even if we don't do a full run. And that includes beefing up the online content and continuing monitor notes, and you'll hear more about that from Alec. So we will look at this by approximately the end of September, the end of the first quarter, and start a transition then if we have to. The other thing I wanted to note was that we do have some money in this new budget now to provide a Zoom subscription to support our board meetings on an ongoing basis. And this is going to support expanding our issue committees and our board, hopefully, because it will reduce the travel time for participants. And that's always been a barrier for the Bay Area League. Lastly, we don't know, there's one other thing about the monitor. We reduced the print run, but the full amount for staff and writing is still in there. This gives us a little wiggle room and flexibility, but we did not want to cut that because somebody is going to need to oversee whatever it is that we do continue, and we do plan to continue. So the last thing is that we don't know what the outlook is for getting money from League Day. As I say, this was done pre-pandemic. We are assuming we can do something about League Day this next year. It may or may not bring in as much money as we ordinarily expect from an in-person event, but we have left that in the budget. So that will also adjust, and it probably downwards in both cases, but it isn't as if we count on it for underwriting ongoing expenses. When we do make a profit, that does go into the monitor project. There are times when that has not been very much money, so it's not something we count on until we have it in hand. Okay, so questions? Not seeing anything on the chat so far. And we will move to, in terms of the monitor, Alec will tell you more about that. So.
All right, that's the next.
Thank you. Vita just posted the PDF for the budget, the link to that on the chat if somebody needs it. Okay, Madeline, if you want to queue up that poll, I think we're ready. I'm not seeing anything in the way of questions.
All right. Well, I can launch the poll. The poll is going to have two parts. The first one is, do you accept the presentation of the treasurer's report? And the second one is, do you approve adoption of the budget? And here it goes.
And Madeline Ann has cast her vote in favor of both, I assume.
I think so. All right, gives us 33 votes.
And Bernie,
34 with Ann.
Bernie, are you able to vote on this poll?
I don't see any polling. I just have to raise.
She has to raise her hand, so she's 35. She makes it 35. Okay, I'm going to end the polling, and you can all see the results. Okay, so the budget is adopted 33-1, and the treasurer's report is accepted. And that brings us to that's not yet. All right, that brings us to the discussion, in fact, about the monitor. Yeah, there it is. And there's Alec. Alec, come on down.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. So I think I'll start by saying we wrapped up our 45th year of publication earlier this week with the publication of the 6th edition of volume 45. That edition has been mailed out in paper and is posted online. If you haven't seen it, bayareamonitor.org, and you can also wait for getting a copy in your mailbox if that's the way you get it. If you've read the last couple of editorial letters that laid out a little bit of where we're at in terms of the difficulty in continuing publication, it should be said that we've struggled somewhat pretty much since I've started this job 14 years ago, which, as you'll note, it correlates with the financial downturn of 2007. So revenue has been an issue ever since, but the pandemic obviously has an impact on what we do. As Leslie mentioned about transportation agencies funding, and also our primary funder, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, restructured our existing contract and at a declining rate over the span of 3 years that it was set for. So I think it may be useful to just, because of the monitor budget you were just, or the monitor budget, the league budget you were just presented as a 2-year budget, I just want to break out the details for the upcoming fiscal year, just because I think that may be useful in terms of seeing kind of what our challenges are for finishing out this year, which I think, I just will say at the outset, is probably our last year of publication in print. Know that these discussions have been ongoing for a while, and your input has continued to be welcome. So just to put some numbers on it, our I think projected expenses for the upcoming year are $54,000. That's $20,000 to me, which is a pay cut, a voluntary pay cut from last year, in which I earned $30,000. My high water mark for income at this job has been 40. So I've taken another voluntary pay cut several years ago to make ends meet. I started the job at $35,000 back in 2007. Our other expenses to make up that total of $54,000 are $12,000 to our writers. That's $500 per article to 4 writers for 6 articles each. And then payment to Cecily O'Connor, who not only is our transportation writer, but also helps produce Monitor Notes, which is the email newsletter that Madeline mentioned, which goes out every Wednesday to a email list of 1,500 people, which is actually up from when we started the project. We started our email list. I think our baseline was 1,200 people. So we continue to get subscribers every week, and it's encouraging that there is interest in that project. Other expenses to make up to $54,000 are printing of $12,000 and the postage and mail preparation, which is $7,000. So far for the upcoming fiscal year, our pledged monies are $42,000. So that's pretty, I mean, it's not terrible in terms of facing that expenses on the other side of the ledger. We are waiting to hear back from another $15,000 in potential funding. I think some of that money is very unlikely, but that's just sort of in a perfect world, that's what we get from our asks. If things look bleak, around mid-September, that is right on the precipice of our second edition of the fiscal year, the new publication year, volume 46. We will run an opt-in announcement for readers saying that if you want to continue receiving a paper copy, we ask that you let us know. Otherwise, you will not receive a paper copy. So that will save on the printing costs and allow us to make it to the end of the year. But regardless, I think once we do make it to June of 2021, or should I say if, my expectation is that MTC will further decrease the funding after the contract expires, and that it will be probably untenable to continue running the project as is. As I have mentioned to the board, my vision for how things move forward is likely investment of current sponsor support towards what Cecily is doing in the weekly newsletter. It seems to make the most sense to me. She is eager to continue and highly qualified, and at this point quite experienced in the regional policy issues that the Monitor covers, and quite well sourced as well, having interviewed so many regional leaders and other folks from kind of the conversations that the Bay Area League participates in. So I think she's well poised to step into that role. And at that point, I would likely step away from the organization and allow her to kind of shepherd everything into a new landscape. On that note, I want to encourage local leagues to sign up for Monitor Notes if that's something that you're interested in. And I think, we've been pushing this vehicle as a way to promote local league activities for some time. And I think some of you have responded and been in touch with Cecily to let her know about the kinds of events that you're organizing in conjunction with other organizations when those events are regional in nature or applicable to Monitor topic area. So I want to encourage you to continue to do that. I will say at this point, I would have expected a little bit more communication between local leagues and Cecily. I spoke with her yesterday. She's not been hearing much from you folks lately, so she would love to. And when you have those opportunities, please do let her know, and we will push them out and get you some people attending to your things. And I think in this digital age that we're in under shelter in place, you're going to get more people from other places, and they're going to bring new ideas from their neck of the woods. And I think it's going to be all the better for, moving policies forward and communicating about the ways we can all kind of participate in our wondrous democracy. Beyond that, I'm trying to think, is there any other things? I'll close. I mean, there are other things to say, but I don't want to go on too long. I'll close by noting I will look to other opportunities to see what we can do to continue producing the Monitor magazine in its current format. As an aside, you'll note in the June editorial letter, page 2 of edition 6, that I have columns about a purely electronic vehicle. There's also some, and if you want to get in, find out more from me, you can do so offline. Be happy to talk about it. But in terms of the way our website is structured and how the content is produced, it's a little tricky to pivot away from kind of the formal magazine layout that we have and make our website kind of to fully take advantage of it. I don't think those details are coming across right now. I don't feel like I'm expressing myself quite well on this issue, but like I said, if you want to talk about it more, I'm happy to be available for those conversations. So I will continue to look for funding sources. We did have one funding win in our ability to procure a grant from Craig Newmark Philanthropies that allowed us to get the website that we have currently. That was great. And I think, a sign that there are deep-pocketed sponsors out there who care about what we do. I think the League is a strong brand. I think we serve an important role in society. And I feel like there are probably, as I say, deep-pocketed interests that feel like they could get behind something like the Monitor. So I'll continue to look out for those. That said, I think, it's difficult to fund media. It's been my finding. I've continued to apply for grants over my tenure here, and that's been my only success. I have pivoted toward this advertising sponsorship mode, but it's difficult to find those kinds of advertising sponsors that kind of fit, that are a good fit for what we do. Those of you who have ideas, feel free to share with places that I could contact. One other win, I guess you could say, was recently that the Oakland Museum Women's Board did place an ad in our Centennial edition in February. That felt nice because it was outside of our standard sponsorship of government agencies, which, the League has close relationships with government agencies, and so it sort of makes sense. But at the same time, I would prefer to get this publication away from those agencies because we're writing about what they do. And frankly, I'd rather not have to think about, I'd rather keep those ideas separate of who are funding us and who are writing about. I think I do a pretty good job of editorial balance and bringing in critics of these agencies, but at the same time, I recognize it as, you know, a suboptimal situation, and I would love to be able to bring in money from other places that kind of come from a different vantage. Haven't been successful on that. If that's something you're interested in talking to me about, again, I'm happy to engage in those conversations. I will say it's been a long time. I've been trying pretty hard, so you're gonna have to come with some fresh ideas. I'd love to hear them.
We've got 2 hands raised, Alec. Let's see what
Okay.
they have to say.
All right.
So the first one is Anne, and the second one is Alex. Anne, you have your hand raised?
I think, no, that was my hand is still up from the last
Oh,
vote.
okay, that wasn't, all right, let me put your hand down then. But what about Alex?
Yeah, Alex,
You have
Alex
your
and
hand.
Alec, I mean, that's always a question there.
Yes.
I just want to encourage you, everyone who's here, and spread the word to their members. If they're reading the Monitor and they find an article or a series of articles that they're really enthused about, let the editor know, because it's a really silent job being an editor. You don't really get a lot of feedback, especially when if it's a digital version. And I think it's very important. I sound like the goody two shoes girl today, thanking everyone. But I really think it's important to say thank you for doing a good job. We don't say that often enough nowadays. That's it.
Right. You're right. Roma, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Roma Dawson with.
Good to see you, Roma.
Thank you. Roma Dawson with San Jose, Santa Clara. Alec, could you just, I think I know the answer to this, but just to be clear, do we use any membership dues paid by the local leagues to subsidize the Monitor? Do we do that now? Have we ever done it?
No. Yeah, PMP never goes to Monitor operations.
So, Madeline, I've got my hand up.
Oh, okay, Bonnie.
So this is Bonnie from League of Women Voters of Oakland. Just for people who are visiting, who are sitting in on the convention, who are not familiar with the Bay Area Monitor, it really is a very fine publication, and donations to the Monitor are welcome, and as are subscriptions. So by sending an email to editor at Bay Area Monitor, you can subscribe, and you can send a donation. Is it possible to make the donation on the website? I don't think it is.
It is, yes. You can use, there's a PayPal, there's a tab on the website that says donate.
Okay, very
Note
good.
that just I'm not expecting large donations, but if you are doing at a sizable amount, a check is preferable, because PayPal will take a cut of, so like a $50 donation, it's just a small service fee, but if it's a significant amount, then check is preferable.
There's some comments in the chat.
Oh, let me find how to get to
It's always good to know when a payment service is taking a cut, because a lot of people don't realize that they're not giving the whole amount.
Right.
So this is Susan Requa with the Diablo Valley League, and I put a chat in about considering just kind of checking in with public radio, public TV, and also I didn't put in the chat that just thinking that we have a nationwide problem of trusted news sources, and the fact that we don't have a local newspaper anymore that used to be critical for getting out election information, campaign articles about policy, articles about candidates. And if we didn't have, 3,000 other highly emotional issues that we're dealing with at the moment, to me, this would be a critical democratic policy effort to repair are sources of information, and with the hundreds of years, well, I'll say all of the college educated communication members um, of our country have focused on marketing and on Facebook communications, Facebook-like, social media-like communications, and not how to communicate information about policy. So, you know, so I don't know if we can maybe set aside a meeting on what things can we do to combine now online sources and generate a network of reliable communication tools like the Monitor that is recognized in our communities as a source, as a trusted source of information. And you know, we have a ways to go to look to see how do we fix online with a wonderful paper effort like the Monitor. How do we get that converted so that we're reaching a broader audience, typically of younger generations? They are reading a Bay Area Monitor online now, and other sources that they trust. So, but you still have to have funding for it.
Yeah.
And maybe we should also consider, as one final point, that we're going to charge for it. Just like my local newspaper, I pay them, but I see it online. And maybe we need to consider that as an option for the Monitor. So
Yeah, thank you. Those are great comments. And I take them to heart. I think that, you know, in terms of building that awareness about the importance of trustworthy and reliable news, I think the one thing everybody in this meeting and your constituents back at your local leagues can do is when you see something in the Monitor that you think represents that type of news, I just encourage you to share it with people, and you can post it on your social media accounts, bring it to your local league membership or your boards. Think about the ideas that are presented in those articles and the ways in which you can translate them into action. You know, just this week, I received an article from somebody who had read Robin Meadows' article about the possibility of returning sea otters to the estuary, and how he felt that this was a good project for the Boy Scouts of America to get involved in, which, you know, is an interesting take. But I think it gets at the heart of one of the parts of the mission that I try to expedite with the Monitor is to get people involved and to serve their communities. So for example, a couple of years ago, we ran a cover on clearing storm drains, and we had local Oakland League of Women Voters of Oakland member Peter Krieger on the cover, just cleaning out a storm drain. And like, that's the kind of concrete impact that we promote in the publication that can lead to a better quality of life for everybody. So that's the kind of, like, if you can put that news into action and spread it around, that's the sort of, I would say the best and maybe easiest way to kind of help promote the concept that Suzanne was talking about. In terms of, like, you know, the NPR modeling and those types of fundraising things, I would love to do that. I'm not a particularly adept fundraiser myself. You know, part of one pathway forward that I was thinking about that I will push to anybody who asks is the idea that this entity could use a publisher, right? I am an editor, but a publisher is the person who's over the business side, and that person can kind of put systems in place for subscriptions or donation programs to a higher capacity and higher quality than I am capable of. So I guess the short answer is, like, I love the idea, you know, pledge drives and stuff. The bandwidth and the skills are maybe not there at this point. And then I think there was one last thing that you'd said that I thought maybe was worth riffing off of, but I forget now, and I've talked too long. So
This is a really important discussion. There's been a lot of interest in the chat. And so I think anybody who wants to continue can email Alec, email any of us on the board, and we'll find ways to continue the conversation.
And I just wanted to call people's attention to the chat so that people would see that the email address for sending donations is there, or the postal address is there for sending checks, and also that Alec pointed out that we can donate via the Bay Area Monitor website.
Exactly, right. And just for those of you on the phone, I'll tell you what it is. It's P.O. Box 22516, Oakland 94609. So now I'm gonna move on. Thank you so much, Alec. Thank you so much.
thank you.
We move on to.
There's some hands that are raised.
I'm sorry, are there hands?
Miles and Leslie and Vida.
Okay. In that order?
In the interest of time, let me take my hand down.
Okay. Leslie? Is your hand
Mine
up?
was just a request that we could to move things to the chat and move on.
Okay. And Vida?
My comment was the board has had conversations about putting together a working group and, gathering via Zoom now. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more so you can express your ideas. So if you're interested, please leave a message for Madeline or Alec, and we'll put you on the list for a Zoom working group.
Exactly.
If that works for you.
Exactly. That is one of the big things about the fact that we're learning how to do this Zoom, is that it does make it easier to gather together, even though it's an unusual way. Anyhow, all right. Well, thank you so much. I'm moving on now to our bylaws, which are about this exact topic, the Zoom conference. Right? We've got two bylaws proposed, two amendments proposed, essentially about the emergency use of conference telephone or electronic meetings for conventions. And this is what we're doing here, and people didn't anticipate doing it. So these bylaws were not in anybody's, these amendments weren't in anybody's, these sections weren't in anybody's bylaws. So I don't know that it needs any real conversation. This is just what enables these kinds of meetings.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Sean Gilbert from Diablo Valley. And I'm curious to know where it says the word emergency. If the league is contemplating using this more on a regular basis, does it require that the word emergency be there so that it broadens the use of it, or does it have to be there?
That's a great question.
Yeah, this is Bernie Brooks from Napa. I had the same comment that I felt like really we've just talked about. It's so much easier, our Bay Area traffic, if it gets back to what it was, is a hindrance to conversations and gatherings. So I think some of the wording there
to delete emergency.
Effective. Yeah.
I recommend you just start with use of conference telephoning.
Okay.
We already have the ability to do this under our bylaws for our board meetings. This is specifically to cover a meeting like this where otherwise it was not allowed.
But still, Leslie, do we really need the word emergency there? Because maybe this might be something we want to do periodically, even if we can in the future meet in person.
Well, the thing is that in the past, our annual meetings and conventions have been regarded as different. So this was just an attempt to address this issue. If we decide we want to move forward and do it for all of our meetings, we can also make that bylaws change, but that was not the intent of this one. And I do want to mention here that we are going to have to bring back a large number of changes. Some of them are just wording cleanups, but others of them are probably going to be a little more substantial. These bylaws have been thoroughly gone over for several years, and both Bonnie and I have found changes that are going to need to be made to clean it up. So I think you can anticipate seeing more bylaws changes or a whole package of revised bylaws at the next convention. So this was considered to be something where we would at least be able to cover ourselves if we needed to do something like a major meeting in the next 2 years.
And anyway, so we're not kept from holding our regular meetings by Zoom if that's what we decided to do.
Right. No, the board meetings and committee meetings are already covered.
Okay.
By that's already allowed. It was just a convention or council was not allowed.
Madeline?
And rather
Yeah,
than extend it to beyond
Carol,
the
yes.
emergency, I think we need to have people have more experience with this before we say it would be a routine way to handle it.
Remember, everyone, mute yourself if you're not speaking, please. We can only hear the typing and not Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
And Niles has his hand up. I don't know.
Yes, Niles has his hand up. I wasn't. Go ahead, Niles.
We are dealing with a similar issue in Solano County. The problem that I have with the wording of this is that as I read the Secretary of State's stuff, I would feel more comfortable if we had notified everybody 10 days prior to the meeting in writing by snail mail about this amendment being proposed today, because it represents a significant change in the voting structure. And it seems the conservative approach would be to make sure that everybody was notified as per the old rules before switching to new rules.
We do have something of an exemption, I think, under the current circumstances. I haven't seen the Secretary of State's material that you're referring to, Niles, but everything that I had seen up until this point, and I'm speaking because of the fact that I drafted these, everything I had seen up to this point indicated that there was some leeway for organizations who are holding our meetings electronically now to go ahead and do that under the current crisis, because we hadn't had a chance to anticipate and put a bylaws amendment into place. This would not be to cover this meeting, it's for future meetings. And so the feeling was that we should go ahead and cover ourselves in case this came up again. I understand your point about notification, but in fact, we have not been notifying our leagues by snail mail for most of our meetings, including councils and conventions for a while. So we are doing this the way that the leagues have been expecting to get their material.
Right, but I'm assuming there's similarities between your bylaws, which I've never read, and ours. But the way I was reading the Secretary of State, it does include this requirement about 10 days if you intend to modify the decision-making structure that is embedded in the bylaws. And to do this
this isn't modifying the decision-making structure. We're still voting. This is modifying the way in which people meet, and I think that's a different aspect.
Yeah, it presumes, though, that all members of the league are able to meet virtually like this in order to vote on the proposition, and that may not be the case. So I'll just stop right there.
Okay.
That's all my point.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan. You have your hand up, Susan?
She needs to be unmuted.
You're muted. There you go.
The first time, sorry. So just quickly, I agree that emergency shouldn't have to be here, but reading the whole thing and believing that in the future, both for environmental concerns, people off, but also to facilitate as many people attending meetings as possible, that we may even want to look at a combined meeting where we have representatives going and we have a live video view of the meeting as a whole. So I think going forward, that I would urge us to do that before we have an emergency, so we can plan for it. But reading this the way it is now and just changing the word emergency won't work. It doesn't flow through the rest of the content.
Vida has her hand up.
Vida?
Vida, unmute yourself.
Yeah. She's trying.
Madeline, can you unmute her?
I'm trying. I think I'm doing the same thing. Maybe I'm making it worse. Between us, we're trying to.
Lower my hand. And,
oh, there she is. Okay.
And letting you know that this specific bylaw is for our emergency conference, and that's it. So we have other bylaws, other areas of our bylaws that address teleconference meetings, and the Bay Area League has explored live and meetings. We did stream our Bay Area League Day, and now that more people are available for Zoom and feel comfortable with it, we definitely will utilize it in the future. And also to let you know that the bylaws are on our website, or the bylaws are on our website. The convention packet and proposed budget are also on the website, and they've been there for a couple of weeks now for your review.
Okay. Are we ready to call the question and launch polling? I think so. So the question is, do you approve the amendments to the bylaws? Yes or no? And here's the poll.
And Anne has raised her hand.
Anne has her hand raised. Okay. And where's Bernie?
Bernie Brooks, could you make a comment so that your
so we can count you?
Image will come up to the first screen.
Yeah.
It's possible that she's left because I don't.
It is possible. That is possible. All right.
There is one hand raised, 650.
That's Anne.
No, that's Anne. We've taken care of that.
All right, I'm going to end the poll. So that gives us, there are 33, 34, 35. And there it is. 33 yes and 1 no. So we have accepted the bylaws. So our next topic, down here, program. And this is a vote on to accept our program planning. And what we have done is following the guidance from the majority of the responding leagues, we are going to focus, and of course this was also done before the pandemic, but it fits on housing and homelessness. There were non-recommended programs also submitted: the review of regional airports, cooperation regarding civil defense, and an update to the regional governance position. Actually, there's 3. Update to regional governance position, and then a position on healthcare land use policy. 4, I didn't put them. I should have broken them down. So it's review of regional airports, cooperation with civil defense. That's 1. Update to regional governance is 2. Position on healthcare is 3, and land use policy is 4. Oops. In addition, we propose forming a coordinating committee, which will coordinate the work of 4 working groups that we hope we will have volunteers to become a part of. And the 4 working groups are regional planning, regional governance and land use, housing and homelessness, focusing on tracking housing bills, climate change and natural resources, and transportation, including the Reed Hillview Working Group. And so that is our program proposal. Do we have any comments? We're not seeing any.
Don't see anything in the chat.
No.
Don't see any hands up unless Anne wants to comment.
No,
on
Anne, is your hand up?
No, it's from my vote.
From your vote, okay.
So Roma has her hand up now.
Roma,
though.
you have your hand up. Where's Roma? Go ahead.
And Roma, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Let me try that again. Roma Dawson, San Jose, Santa Clara. Just as a point of information, there will be some things coming through regional agencies, MTCA bag, probably coming forward in June regarding a housing plan. So now is the time, if you have anyone in your locals that are interested in housing, if you could please contact us at League Bay Area. Thank you.
Thank you, Roma.
Sherry would like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Looking towards the bottom of the materials on program planning.
Yeah.
It speaks of the board recommending that we form 4 working groups, including transportation. And I have to express some ignorance about what a Reed Hillview working group might be.
Isn't Reed Hillview the airport
yeah.
in San Mateo County? Small airport that may
It
be
is.
closing.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes, go ahead.
This is a request for a study coming from San Jose, Santa Clara. Reed Hillview is a general aviation airport located in the east side of San Jose. And it has been a controversial issue locally for over 30 years. There is a regional aspect to this in terms of civil defense. Now, this will be years in the making. However, my league is requesting that you allow us to form, be part of a working group that when the time is appropriate to bring matters to the attention of the Transportation Committee. So that's what this request is. And again, this will be several years in the making and very complicated. Our county, Santa Clara County Council will also be working on this. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the story, Sherry.
Okay, thanks.
Any other hands? Vita.
You also have a hand, Anne. I just raised my hand.
Okay, that's a real one. Let me do Vita and then Anne. Go ahead, Vita.
I really want to give a shout out for the board for creating an opportunity for these working groups. I mean, there's so much going on in regional government right now, regional air quality, that it's really important that we have our ducks in a row. And there's so much information to read and review and discuss and, you know, share that information with you. So these working groups are really a great opportunity for us to get organized into the next year as we move into Bay Area Plan 2050. And I also wanted to give a shout out for review regional airports. Up in Napa County, we also suggested to look at regional airports because there's so many people encroaching and living near the airports. We've got other issues around local smaller airports. So I think it's a good thing for the Bay Area to review our regional airport position.
Thank you. And then Anne.
I'm going to support the inclusion of Reed Hillview in here. Although it may sound like a Santa Clara County only issue, there are these civil defense issues. And I think it's really good that one league is thinking not only locally, but regionally, and our committees can be used as a way for the local leagues, any local league, to bring up issues that they think go beyond their boundaries and are regional. So I'm just saying I'm supporting it, and that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Jane, your hand up? Janet, I'm sorry, Janet.
Yes, thank you. Hi. I have a rather, I think, elementary question because I'm kind of new to this interleague arrangement. I'm with Diablo Valley, and we're going to be having our annual meeting in just a couple of weeks. And we recently, we're proposing a rather significant change to our program. So my question is, how does the program of the Bay Area League interact or work with a local area league and the state league program? What is a relationship? How do they complement each other, or is that not a factor?
Madeline, would you like me to respond?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when people join a local league, they become members of the regional league and of the state league and of the League of Women Voters of the United States. And so when the other levels of league adopt program, those program can be, and local leagues are encouraged to support and work on those program areas. So you wouldn't, if the Bay Area League has adopted something that is a regional issue that they're going to be focusing on, if your league is interested in that as a regional issue, you wouldn't have to adopt it individually in your local league. Your members could participate in the working group to be part of the program work.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. I assumed that was, but thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, it's Bonnie Hamlin. I'm a local league coach.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Coaches around, isn't it, Bonnie?
All right, was there anybody else who had their hand up? Oh, Sherry.
Hi. I'm puzzled about what we're about to vote on. We have the board recommendation, housing and homelessness. Then
Right.
we have the non-recommended programs, each got one local league supporting it. And then we have the working groups, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5. But are we voting to support all of this?
No.
Including
Here's what we're voting. Well, here's what we're specifically voting on.
Okay.
Right, because as the person who drafted the poll that is like in stone now, I'll just tell you what I drafted. Do you approve the adoption of the board recommended program, housing and homelessness? The board can go ahead and do those other things, but what we're doing is just doing the program adoption right now. So that's specifically what we're going to vote on, housing and homelessness as the board program. Right?
And the rest of it is essentially recommendations to the board? I see.
So are we ready to do
Madeline,
it? I'm sorry,
Madeline,
did somebody?
Madeline, one quick thing before you do the vote. Oh, can you readmit Bernie? She has changed computers.
Oh, she has. Where is she?
Oh, I did get back in. Thank you. Somebody let me in. Or somehow I got
I
in.
let you in.
Okay,
okay, but there you are. Okay, good. So I'm going to launch the poll.
And there's a yes vote from Anne.
There's a yes from Ann, so that makes it 34. And that's it. I think that's everybody's voted. I'll end the polling. And here's the results.
Well,
Okay, so it's 34 plus it's 35. Alex.
the one thing I wanted to say is that even though these are have different titles, housing and homeless, and then the non-recommended items, there's confluence in many of them. And so I think by studying some of the ones that are not on the top of the board, doesn't mean that we ignore them. It means that we take them into consideration and also see how housing and homelessness works with transportation, especially now that so much of the funding has been reallocated to these emergencies that we're facing now. So the whole goal of housing and homelessness and I would call it, my own opinion, broken transportation system within the Bay Area, I think they really have to be considered almost jointly.
The dogs had to go, both of them. She pooped twice. Oh, shit. So
I know what we're hearing.
do it on the phone and I couldn't do it.
Somebody is talking. Okay. So thank you. Yes, you're exactly right. And we are intending to go ahead with doing the proposals that were in the non-recommended in this broader coordinating committee. So so this is passed. Oh, did you see it? Did I share it?
So I just wanted to call people's attention to the chat because there's been a discussion going on the chat as to how the chairpeople of who will be the coordinating committee.
So that hasn't been determined yet.
No. And so Roma is encouraging people who are interested in being part of a coordinating committee, being one of being on one of the 4 different committees. Let us know. And I will be recording the chat, saving the chat. So any information that's in the chat today will also be on the record.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So that we've concluded this poll. And it's been accepted. I did share it, yes. So now we're moving on from program to nominating committee. And this is Bonnie.
Okay, so as chair of the nominating committee for the League of Women Voters of the Bay Area, the members of that committee, myself as chair, Ann Draper of League of Women Voters South San Mateo County, Kate Quick of the League of Women Voters of Alameda, Roma Dawson of the League of Women Voters of San Jose, and Leslie Stewart of the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley have met and have contemplated the needs of the League of Women Voters of the Bay Area and are proposing this slate in conjunction with the bylaws where we are required to elect 10 directors at convention, 4 of which would be officers. So you see before you the slate that the Bay Area, the nominating committee of the League of Women Voters of the Bay Area is presenting for your consideration today. For President, Sherry Smith of Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. As Secretary, Marianne Benson from Piedmont. Climate Change, Eric Ahrens from Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. At Large, Margot McGlone of the League of Women of Solano County. And then continuing board members, Madeline Cronenberg, who would go from having been president to being the administrative vice president. Leslie, who has graciously agreed to continue as treasurer. Roma Dawson also going on as housing, Kathleen Chaug with regional government, transportation, Alex Starr, and communication, Vita Flores. That's the report of the nominating committee. As far as board members go, we also are nominating 3 members of the nominating committee for 2020 to 22. And those are Ann Draper of San Mateo County as chair, Ken Werner of the League of Women Voters of Alameda, and Melissa Breach of the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County.
In addition, we had a self-nomination of Mr. Bukowski, Ken Bukowski of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. And he has nominated himself, and he had a second, for the communications position on the board. So
could I just clarify that I think it's for part of the communications position. He in particular is interested in communication amongst the local leagues as opposed to website and social media and that aspect of communications.
Right. So if Mr. Bukowski would like to speak for a minute, and then because the way we're going to do this is the next thing we'll do is have the election for communications director, which is contested with Ken Bukowski and Vita Flores, the choice of the nominating committee. So if Mr. Bukowski wants to speak for a minute, I would certainly allow you to put your candidacy forward if you like. Are you here, Ken?
So he needs to be unmuted, I think.
He has to unmute himself.
Okay.
I don't know where he is.
He's still on the list, so I don't know whether he's hearing you or not. Ken, if you wanted to speak, can you unmute yourself?
All right, well, I see you, Ken. Ken? I'll unmute you. Ken?
He has his hand up. Ken, you
Yes,
need
I know, but he's still muted. Ken, you have to unmute yourself. I couldn't do it.
This is Leanne. I wonder if he's there because his picture seems very still. I don't see that he's alive.
Oh, I don't know.
either.
Or it could be frozen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, or he
something's
may just
going
be
on.
using a picture rather than having
He's
himself.
got his hand. He's got his hand up. Ken, are you there?
Perhaps he should put something in the chat if
Yeah.
he's not able
Ken,
to.
why don't you do that? Put something in the chat just to let us know that you're here.
Is there a way for us to see everybody in gallery? I'm getting only a little selection of
It depends on the size of your screen. You're just going to have to keep scrolling through. You have to have a giant screen that will fit everybody to.
You can
Everybody at
do it as a grid. If you go up to the top of the bar where the little photos are, you can see a grid which allows you to see more.
Okay, Ken, now.
Can you hear?
Ken?
Mama.
Go. I heard him for a second.
He's in his car, I think.
It shows that Ken is muted. You have to unmute, Ken.
Not obvious how to do that when you're on a cell phone.
No, he's not. He's muted. That's the problem.
Madeline, are you able to unmute him?
I tried. It's not as easy. And now I can't find him.
He's up right under your name.
Oh, there he is now. Okay. So he's frozen again on my screen. Ken?
Can you use the chat? Perhaps.
Wait, I think, are you coming, Ken? I don't know. I mean, if he's in a car, if he's traveling, or
could he call in?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. Well, I really wasn't trying to replace Vita. I was really interested in communication and transportation. So I don't know what to say. If you only have 10 positions, then I guess don't know what to say.
Well, do you want to continue? Do you want your name put in for communications director contesting Vita? Yes or no?
I don't want to take Vita out, so I don't want to take Vita out, so I guess I'll withdraw.
Okay.
So Ken, having expressed your interest, the board is capable of appointing people. So the new board can consider your interest.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to pull up the poll, and this one is the next one is the contest between Vita and Ken, and I'm gonna launch it, but I think I can just close it because we don't have to have it, right? Because it's no longer there is no longer a contest. So right, or maybe I can just skip it. Skip it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to do number 7. And number 7, the next poll, the last poll, our final poll, it will say, do you approve the balance of the nominating committee report? Do you approve that, in this case now, it is, do you approve the nominating committee report? Yes or no? So you're going to approve and accept the committee report. I'm now going to launch the polling on that. There you go.
This is Anne. My vote is yes.
Thank you.
Madeline, I have a question.
Yes.
Normally you ask if there are nominations from the floor as you go through each position.
Well, I didn't, because I sent, in the emails I sent out in the past, I said you had to send them to me because it was a Zoom meeting,
all right.
so that I could create the poll. I needed it 24 hours before. Okay. Got 35 voters. I'm going to end the polling, and I'm going to share the results. And there we are. The nominating, our nominees have all been approved and accepted and are now our new upcoming board. So thank you all very much for all of that work. That brings us to the end.
President's remarks.
The president's remarks, and my remarks are, I'm going to introduce our upcoming president, Sherry Smith, who I know has some words of encouragement for the future. Sherry?
Here I am.
There you are. Sherry's coming in.
You want to stop sharing your screen though, so Sherry.
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
do want to stop sharing my screen.
Good.
There you go.
Hi,
And
Bonnie.
maybe remove the poll.
I'll do that too.
You can close the poll yourself.
There we are.
Sherry, you're on, my dear.
You're on, Sherry.
Okay. All I need to do is speak, and I'm there, huh?
You
I'm
are
getting
there.
a phone. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting a phone icon on my own screen.
But we can hear you, Sherry.
Okay, good, good. That's all you need. I've never been accused of not being able to be heard.
All right.
So let me first of all just say that we're so grateful, of course, all of us on screen and in our homes and wherever we are, for the board and Madeline's leadership over these last years. It's just an excellent group of people, and I'm so pleased to have so many of them staying with us for the next couple of years at least, and long may we all wave. We're told there's a Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times.
Yes.
And I don't think, though, that given that, any of us have ever lived in times of simultaneous pandemic, protests, and the most important election season probably in US history. I just want to show a button that I'm wearing here, if you can all see
Good
that.
for you.
Okay.
All right.
Let's keep that in mind. I know we are. There's no group more alert to that than the League of Women Voters, our nonpartisan group. And have I forgotten anything in our challenges right now? Look how we're proceeding with this convention right now via Zoom. Who knew, a year ago that there would be anything like this? And to be able to do it as a bunch of old ladies and gentlemen, I mean, heck fire, that's wonderful. And Madeline, thanks so much for hosting. There was a lot on your plate to get this out amongst us all. I want you to take a look at page 15 of your convention kit. That's the one that has all of the folks who are nominated for this coming year. And it shows the array of regional concerns that we, the Bay Area League, are dedicated to addressing. And in addition to those topics, we have national state and local league concerns that are going to address things like criminal justice, like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh my goodness, it is the spectrum, let's say, of even worldwide concerns. So you, all of us with our membership in the league, can be sure you're in the forefront of efforts to improve America. And I say, hooray, and thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you,
Sherry.
everybody, for coming today.
Yay.
And we made it before noon. I am going to adjourn this meeting. We'll see you in 2 years, maybe on Zoom. We don't know. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, leave.
Here we are, disappearing.